Have you ever felt completely lost? Like you're just drifting through life with no real direction, stuck in a routine that feels more like a cage than a comfort zone? That was me not too long ago. I had a decent job, a nice apartment, a life that looked pretty good on paper, but inside I felt hollow. Every day was a carbon copy of the last. Wake up, work, eat, sleep, repeat. I was craving something more, a spark, a change of scenery, anything to break the monotony. I spent my evenings scrolling through pictures of exotic destinations, dreaming of a grand escape. I thought a week on a beach in Bali or a trek through the Himalayas was what I needed to fix everything. But life has a funny way of giving you what you need, not always what you think you want. One weekend, feeling particularly restless, I decided to just get in my car and drive. No destination in mind, just a full tank of gas and a desperate need to see something new. I drove for hours, leaving the city skyline behind until the landscape softened into rolling hills and quiet country roads. I ended up in a tiny, forgotten town that wasn't on any tourist map. It had one main street, a handful of shops, and a pace of life that felt like it belonged to a different era. My first thought was, what am I doing here? There's nothing to see. I almost turned the car around, but something made me stay. Maybe it was the quiet, or maybe I was just too tired to drive anymore. I booked a room at the town's only inn, a quirky, charming place run by a woman with a story for every piece of antique furniture. That first evening, I sat on the porch, listening to the crickets and watching the stars come out, brighter than I'd ever seen them in the city. There was no Wi-Fi, no cell service. At first, it was terrifying. I felt a wave of anxiety, a reflex to check my phone, to connect to something, anything. But with nothing to distract me, I was forced to just be present. I started to notice things I'd been blind to for years. The smell of rain on dry earth, the complex patterns in a spider's web, the way the light changed as the sun went down. The next day I explored. I walked through the woods, my feet crunching on fallen leaves. I found a small, crystal-clear creek and just sat by its edge for what felt like hours, watching the water flow over smooth stones. I visited the local diner where everyone seemed to know each other. The waitress didn't just take my order. She asked me where I was from, what brought me to their little corner of the world. People talked to me. Not small talk, but real conversations. An old man at the general store taught me how to tell the difference between oak and maple leaves. A baker showed me how she kneaded bread, her hands moving with a practiced grace that was mesmerizing. I had come looking for a grand adventure, for something loud and spectacular to shake me out of my rut. Instead, I found stillness. I found quiet. I found a community that valued connection over convenience. This tiny, unassuming town, the place I never would have chosen, was exactly what I needed. It wasn't about escaping my life. It was about rediscovering how to live it. The silence wasn't empty. It was full of life. The slowness wasn't boring. It was intentional. I realized my problem wasn't my routine. It was my mindset. I was so focused on the next big thing that I was missing the beauty in the small, everyday moments. I stayed for a week. When I finally drove back to the city, something in me had shifted. The traffic didn't seem as frustrating. My apartment didn't feel like a cage anymore. It felt like home. The world seemed more vibrant, more full of possibility. I started taking walks in my own neighborhood, discovering little parks and quirky shops I'd never noticed before. I started talking to my neighbors, learning their stories. I brought the spirit of that small town back with me. It taught me that you don't need to fly across the world to find yourself. Sometimes, the most profound journeys happen in the most unexpected places. Sometimes the adventure you need is the one that teaches you to appreciate where you already are. This experience changed my definition of travel and of happiness. It's not about ticking boxes off a bucket list. It's about being open to the detours. It's about finding the magic in the mundane. That little town with its quiet streets and kind-hearted people gave me a gift far more valuable than a passport stamp. It gave me a new perspective. It reminded me that a meaningful life isn't built on grand gestures, but on 1,000 tiny moments of connection and awareness. It was the place I never expected to find, but it turned out to be the place I desperately needed. It was my reset button. So, if you're feeling lost, maybe you don't need to book a flight to a faraway land. Maybe you just need to take a different route home from work. Maybe you need to visit that little town a few hours away that you've always driven past. Maybe the place you need is closer than you think. The most important discoveries are often made when we stop searching so hard and simply allow ourselves to be found. And that can happen anywhere, at any time, if you're just willing to open your eyes and your heart to the unexpected. What's a place that unexpectedly changed you? I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories about finding the extraordinary in the ordinary.